By sunrise, $9,000 was gone, spent on designer clothes and luxury vacation tickets for her kids. When I confronted my in-laws at breakfast, my father-in-law slammed his coffee down and yelled, "She would never do something like that. Stop trying to ruin this family." My husband stayed dead silent, staring at his plate, refusing to meet my eyes. My sister-in-law smirked, believing she had pulled off the ultimate, untraceable theft while I slept soundly upstairs. They all thought I was defeated. They thought I'd just cry, accept the financial blow, and keep quiet to keep the peace. But what none of them realized was that I had seen her shadow creeping into my room at 3 a.m. I watched her take the card, and I didn't stop her. Because the card she stole wasn't a standard credit card. Before you hear how her greed completely backfired, leave a comment with the city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. My name is Clara. I'm 34 years old, and up until a few months ago, I believed that staying quiet was the best way to keep the peace in a marriage. My husband, Mark, and I lived in a quiet suburban home, funded mostly by my career as a senior operations director for a global logistics firm. Mark was soft-spoken, but his family was anything but. When Mark's sister, Chloe, showed up on our doorstep with her 2 spoiled children, carrying mountain-load suitcases, Mark didn't even consult me. Chloe claimed she was going through a rough patch and needed a temporary place to reboot. Few days turned into weeks. Chloe didn't contribute a single dollar toward groceries, yet she spent every evening drinking my expensive wine and making passive-aggressive remarks about my lifestyle. Must be nice having corporate blood money to buy designer bags while some of us live in the real world, she'd sneer over dinner. Mark would just kick my leg under the table, mouthing, "Please just ignore her." I tolerated it until the night of July 14th. It was 3 a.m. I had stayed up late finishing a quarterly audit in my home office and was fast asleep in our master bedroom when a soft click woke me. Through the dim glow of the hallway nightlight, I saw a shadow creeping into my office, the room where I kept my personal belongings and work equipment. I didn't make a sound. I quietly slipped out of bed, stepped onto the hallway carpet, and peeked around the doorframe. There stood Chloe. She wasn't looking for an extra blanket or a glass of water. She was hovering over my desk, her fingers light as a feather, unzipping my leather purse. I watched in dead silence as her fingers reached past my wallet and pulled out a sleek, heavy black card resting in the side pocket. She held it up to the light of her phone screen, a sinister little smirk spreading across her face. My heart hammered against my ribs. Every instinct screamed at me to burst into the room, snatch the card back, and drag her out of my house. But then I paused. I looked at the exact card she had chosen. A cold, calm clarity washed over me. I slowly stepped back into the shadows and let her walk right back down to the guest room, completely unaware that she had just walked straight into a trap. I woke up at 7 a.m. to my phone buzzing relentlessly against the nightstand. When I unlocked the screen, my notifications were flooded with urgent transaction alerts. First-class round-trip flight tickets to a 5-star resort in Miami. $4,200. A high-end boutique deposit. $2,800. Luxury spa packages and designer beachwear orders. Another $2,000. Total pending charges. $9,000. I took a deep breath, gathered my phone, and walked down to the kitchen. The entire family was gathered around the breakfast table. Chloe was sipping coffee, looking extraordinarily pleased with herself, while her kids were glued to their iPads. My father-in-law, Arthur, was reading the morning news at the head of the table, and Mark was buttering toast. I set my phone face up on the table right in front of Chloe. Care to explain why $9,000 was charged from my purse in the middle of the night? The room went dead quiet for a second before Chloe scoffed, casually waving her hand. "I don't know what you're talking about, Clara. Maybe you signed up for a subscription and forgot. These are plane tickets to Miami in your name, Chloe," I said, keeping my voice dangerously steady. "And the time stamped on the purchases starts at 3:15 a.m. Before Chloe could even come up with another lie, Arthur slammed his coffee mug onto the table, splashing liquid across the placemat. "That is enough, Clara. How dare you accuse my daughter of stealing in front of her children? She would never do something like that. Stop trying to ruin this family with your paranoid accusations just because you resent having guests. I turned my eyes to Mark, waiting for my husband to back me up, to demand an explanation, or at least ask to see the charges. But Mark stayed dead silent. He kept his eyes fixed on his plate, chewing his toast nervously, completely refusing to make eye contact with me. Chloe saw Mark's silence and her grin widened. Honestly, Clara, if you're having money troubles, just say that. You don't have to invent wild stories to make me look like a criminal. They really thought they had one. They thought Arthur's yelling and Mark's spineless silence would force me to back down. But as I picked up my phone, I almost felt sorry for what was about to hit them. What Chloe, Arthur, and Mark didn't understand was the true nature of the black card sitting in Chloe's purse. It wasn't my personal credit card. It was a high-level corporate expense card issued directly by my employer's executive operations team. Because I handle global logistics, I am entrusted with a corporate line reserved strictly for emergency transport, high-stakes vendor settlements, and executive logistics. The company's policy on this card is absolute. Zero personal use, strict mandatory reporting, and real-time fraud tracking monitored by an automated corporate security division. When Chloe snatched that card out of my bag at 3 a.m., she didn't just commit a quiet family theft. She triggered a massive corporate security protocol. By 8 a.m., while Arthur was still glaring at me across the breakfast table, my work phone vibrated with a direct call from our head of corporate compliance. Any single unauthorized charge over $1,000 automatically flags the account, but $9,000 worth of non-approved personal travel expenses on a corporate line instantly initiates a criminal investigation. I walked out of the kitchen, stepped into my study, and closed the door. My compliance director's voice was crisp. Clara, we're seeing flags on your executive card out of Miami merchants and airline portals. Is your line compromised? Yes, I said, my voice completely devoid of hesitation. The card was stolen from my residence last night. I didn't try to cover for Chloe. I didn't make excuses to save Mark's family from embarrassment. I logged into my home security portal, downloaded the clear high-definition video footage from my office camera, showing Chloe stepping in at 3:02 a.m., unzipping my bag and sliding the card out, and uploaded it directly into the company's secure fraud portal alongside a signed legal affidavit. Because the stolen funds belonged to a multi-million-dollar corporation rather than an individual, the case was automatically forwarded to local law enforcement and federal financial fraud units. The corporate legal team immediately flagged the transactions with the airlines and luxury vendors, marking every ticket and reservation purchased with that card as stolen property. Chloe was sitting downstairs right now, packing her bags with a smug smile, entirely oblivious to the fact that she hadn't stolen from a passive sister-in-law. She had just defrauded a multinational corporation. By 1 p.m., Chloe and her children were packed and ready to leave for their unearned luxury vacation. She struts through the living room, designer sunglasses perched on her head, utterly convinced she'd outsmarted me. Arthur gave her a warm hug, telling her to have a wonderful, well-deserved trip, while Mark loaded her heavy suitcases into the trunk of a taxi. Neither of them looked at me as I sat calmly in the living room, reading a book. They genuinely believed I had been intimidated into silence. 2 hours later, the storm hit. Mark's phone began ringing frantically. He answered on speaker, and Chloe's hysterical shrieks filled the room. "Mark, you need to do something right now. Security has me cornered at the gate. They're saying my tickets are fraudulent and that I'm under arrest." Through the receiver, we could hear the chaotic echo of the airport terminal, followed by the firm, authoritative voice of an officer informing Chloe that she was being detained for grand larceny and corporate credit card fraud. She had tried to scan stolen first-class boardings, instantly triggering the local authorities waiting at the gate. Arthur jumped out of his chair, his face turning bright crimson. "Clara, what did you do?" he screamed, towering over me. "Call them right now and tell them it was a mistake. Tell them you gave her permission." Mark grabbed my shoulder, his voice shaking with sheer panic. "Clara, please. She's my sister. You can't let her go to jail over this. Just drop the charges. I stood up slowly, brushed Mark's hand off my shoulder, and looked both of them dead in the eye. I can't drop the charges, Mark. And even if I wanted to, I don't have the power to. Arthur slammed his fist onto the coffee table. What are you talking about? It's your card. It isn't my personal card, I said, my voice completely icy and composed. It's a high-security corporate line owned by my company. Chloe didn't steal from me. She committed grand theft against an international corporation. The corporate legal team filed the charges, backed by HD security footage of her sneaking into my office at 3 a.m. The state is prosecuting her now, not me. The color completely drained from Arthur's face. Mark stumbled backward, finally realizing the immense scope of the disaster his sister had walked into. There were no family favors to ask, no tears to cry, and no way to sweep this under the rug. Chloe was facing real felony charges, and her greed had finally caught up with her. Chloe's legal nightmare unfolded fast. Because the evidence was undeniable. Her lawyer advised her to take a plea deal to avoid federal prison time. She was convicted of felony grand larceny, placed on 5 years of strict probation, and ordered to pay full restitution to my employer. To cover the $9,000 debt plus massive legal fees, she had to take out high-interest personal loans and sell her car. Her days of living off other people's hard work were officially over. Back home, the fallout was just as swift. In the days following Chloe's arrest, Arthur tried to guilt-trip me, claiming I had destroyed his daughter's life. But the real breaking point was Mark. Seeing my husband stand by while his family belittled and robbed me, only to spinelessly demand I compromise my career to protect a thief, erased whatever love I had left for him. 2 weeks after the airport incident, while Mark was out assisting his sister with her bail arrangements, I packed my things. I left a set of signed divorce papers on the kitchen table alongside a printout of the 3 a.m. security footage, a permanent reminder of why our marriage was over. Today, I live in a quiet, sunlit condo overlooking the city. My career is thriving, my finances are secure, and for the first time in years, I have complete control over my life and my home. I lost a spineless husband and a toxic set of in-laws, but I gained my freedom. What would you have done if you caught a family member stealing from your purse in the middle of the night? Would you have stopped her right away, or let the trap spring itself? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video for more stories. Until next time, take care.